Kansin Itute Mak Tiar Wheatley Nisiga Soon to Wow. Welcome to APTN National News. It has been 2 years since 25-year-old Lyndon McIvor went missing and was later found deceased in Lake Manitoba First Nation. Both his mother and the Manitoba RCMP believe he was murdered, and people in the community know what happened to Lyndon and hope they will come forward with new information that could lead to an arrest.
If it's your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, ask them to talk.
According to Manitoba RCMP, McCyver left his mom's home in Lake Manitoba First Nation on August 26, 2023 to enjoy a night out with friends. The family became worried about McCyver and was not responding to his messages and began searching for him. 5 days later, on August 31st, McCyver was found deceased in a wooded area in the community. RCMP Major Crimes continues to investigate and believe there are people in Lake Manitoba First Nation who know what happened and can provide more information to police.
Lyndon was outgoing. He loved hockey. He loved baseball. He loved sports. He was proud of his babies. He took care of his babies. I always wonder what my grandsons think. My grandsons think that he's away.
And you can watch that full video by going to RCMP Manitoba's YouTube channel and Facebook page. If anyone knows what happened to Lyndon McIvor, you are asked to contact the Major Crime Service tip line at 431-489-8110. Lake Manitoba First Nation is located about 190 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs say they are not committing to the Manitoba government's proposal for a Crown-Indigenous corporation. This comes after a special Chiefs Assembly meeting late last week. Reporter Sav Jonza has more.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs say they will proceed carefully with the Manitoba government following AMC's decision to not commit to a major infrastructure project initiative. This comes after a special Chiefs Assembly late last week, where chiefs and proxies from all 63 First Nations in Manitoba discussed the province's proposed Crown-Indigenous Corporation, or MCIC. Still in its early stages, the MCIC intends to create consultation between Manitoba and Indigenous leaders in the province for a review and approval of major projects in their traditional territory. AMC Grand Chief Kyra Wilson said in a statement that chiefs were cautious about MCIC's framework, adding the Manitoba Crown-Indigenous Corporation model includes a 12-seat board with only 5 seats designated for First Nations, expected to represent all 63 nations in Manitoba and more than 172,000 citizens. Manitoba Premier Whati Canoe spoke at the AMC meeting, assuring opportunity for partnership even if they did not move forward with his proposal. Earlier this month, the Southern Chiefs Organization and Manitoba Métis Federation agreed to engage in the creation and operation of the initiative together through a recently signed Memorandum of Understanding. They expect MCIC will have equal representation from First Nations and Red River Métis. AMC will continue to discuss the proposal at an annual General Assembly in September. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Member of Parliament Leah Gazan wrote a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney last Thursday. Her letter urges the government to ensure the safety of wildfire evacuees, especially women and girls at high risk of violence. Gazan says that she has asked Prime Minister Carney if Indigenous women and girls' safety is not of national interest to him in the past, and in her new letter addresses the same question. She has not received any comment from Carney. The province of Manitoba has one of the highest rate of sex trafficking for Indigenous women and girls, and the lack of attention being put into evacuee shelters is increasing risk for MMIWG2S+, with many sleeping on cots. Gazan says that duty of care is a right that evacuees have, and the community is concerned, especially with the safety of women and girls. The community of Whati in Northwest Territories has been issued an evacuation notice due to a nearby wildfire. The community government of Whati released a statement on August 25th at 5 p.m. saying the community was under an evacuation notice due to a wildfire 15 kilometers away. The press release stated that the community is advised to prepare for a potential emergency and/or evacuation if necessary. According to the Northwest Territories fire update page, the fire was started on August 7th by lightning strikes and remains the Territory's top priority. To stay up to date, visit their Facebook page at facebook.com/NWTFireInfo. The Yukon government has started work to make its mining regulatory system more independent. The government says recent events like last year's Eagle gold mine heap leach failures show there's a need to re-examine the territory's regulatory oversight. The Department of Energy, Mines and Resources is currently responsible for inspecting mining operations, enforcing environmental regulations, and monitoring impacts of resource development. The government says it's exploring whether that responsibility could be housed with the Yukon Water Board, an independent body that regulates water use in the territory. The process is in the early stages and will include engaging with First Nations. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email, news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Time for a quick break. We take you to Mi'kmaq territory for a Comic-Con event when we come back. Kitam Nigapay Tu Tan. Pitigwe, welcome back. For the first time, a Comic-Con was held at a Mi'kmaq Nation. The event had a Mi'kmaq touch that included celebrities and wrestling. Angel Moore was at the Elsipogtog Mi'kmaq Nation Comic-Con, which included some well-known celebrities.
You would not expect wrestling at a Comic-Con, but co-organizer Susan Levi-Peters says it was a great fit.
Because the arena is named after one of a former wrestler from our community, when that's his wrestler name, I said, yeah, why not? Like everything's, is meant to happen the way it's supposed to. So we invited them, and then it turned out like you've seen it. The kids were so all pumped for that and everything.
About 200 people gathered at the Chief Eagle Young Recreation Center in the Elsipogtog First Nation to attend the first time a Comic-Con was held in a Mi'kmaq Nation. Levi-Peters was inspired by her daughter to bring Comic-Con to her community and called it ElsiCon.
So she took us to a comic convention in Moncton, East Coast Comic Expo. And it was unbelievable, like to see something like this, and I immediately, I wanted to bring it to my community and share it.
Comic-Con is where fans of anime and comic culture meet creators, purchase merchandise, and show off their costumes, including PJ Sock. He is 11 years old and is from the Elsipogtog First Nation. Sock is Lorax, a character from the Dr. Seuss movie. He made his costume.
I spray painted this yellow, and I found this at Walmart. That's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I got this from a pillow.
Vicky Bear dressed as Wonder Woman and came to support her daughter, Asha Bear. They traveled from their community, the Nagudkuk-Wolastoqey Nation.
I decided to come today because my daughter had asked me to come, and she encouraged me to dress up with her. And it means a lot to me to be here with my daughter. I'm very excited.
Asha came to ElsiCon to promote her business called Bear Beadwork and have fun. She is dressed as her favorite character, Sailor Moon. She says it was not hard to convince her mom to attend the event.
Well, she wanted to meet Adam Beach. So basically we wanted to come here and have fun and celebrate, and I always enjoy having company, and it was nice to bring my mom along and help me and support me in my business.
Adam Beach was one of the guest celebrities. Fans lined up to take photos and get his autograph. Beach hopes ElsieCon inspires young Indigenous filmmakers to defy stereotypes.
Growing up, I've wanted to see superheroes. I wanted to be in comic books. And there are Native heroes, but I've wanted something more than that. I wanted to include the Indigenous history, the language.
Glenn Gould is a Mi'kmaq actor from the Membertou Mi'kmaq Nation. He has acted in movies such as Bones of Crows. Gould says Comic-Con should take place in more First Nations communities.
To give that exposure to the kids in those communities, and not just kids, adults. There's a lot of adults who are comic fans, television fans. So I think it'd be nice to bring something different to the community that they don't normally get to experience.
Levi Peters says ElsieCon was a first for many community members, and it was a success.
So when they walked in, it's like they said, we feel like we're not even in Elsipogtog, like we're somewhere else. So, and they really enjoyed it, and you look around, everybody was laughing, having fun.
Levi Peters is already planning next year's Comic-Con, and she hopes it will be hosted in another Mi'kmaq nation. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Elsipogtog First Nation.
Kinanaskamitin Angel Moore, I promise I know my colleagues' names. The Toronto International Film Festival, or TIFF, is fast approaching for 2025. The 10-day festival begins on September 4th. This year, 2 films showcasing at TIFF are the brainchild of a woman with ties to the Saging First Nation in Manitoba. Dana Solomon joined us over Zoom earlier to talk about those 2 films, one called Bloodlines and the other called Nime. Thanks for joining us, Dana. You have 2 films showcasing at TIFF this year. Let's start with Bloodlines. What should our viewers know about this film?
This film is a beautiful love story between 2 women. It's rooted in Métis culture. It's about belonging, complex relationships, and ultimately forgiveness.
And the other is called Nime. What takes place in this piece of work?
Well, this piece of work is my directorial debut that'll be premiering at TIFF this September, which I'm so thrilled about. It's about an Indigenous ballerina reigniting her passion for dance after a traumatic event.
You're of mixed heritage as well. You bring representation from the queer community. Tell me a little bit about how all of this helps in your storytelling.
Yeah, I think it informed every fabric of my storytelling. I worked for many years with Indigenous youth, and my aim is to bring representation of all kinds to film and TV. Representation I wish I had growing up, and being of mixed heritage and from the queer community, championing these stories is very important to me.
You mentioned it briefly there earlier, but you worked both behind the scenes and in front of the camera. Where did you get your inspiration to want to do all of it?
Yeah, well, I look up to people like Eva Thomas and Gail Maurice, Jennifer Podemsky, and I feel like they've really paved the way for this next wave of filmmakers like myself to come up. They've inspired me. And working with youth has inspired me to write stories and create awareness and change through my art.
Let's get back to those films a little bit. They're a little bit, one's a longer, one's a short film. Tell me the difference in them.
Yeah, Bloodlines is a feature film that I have a lead role in, and Nime is a short film that I wrote, directed, and acted in. The lead character in Nime is Callie Kennedy, who's also a dance artist who I met doing a dance project.
And we said you're mixed heritage. Tell us a little bit about your background a bit more.
Yeah, I'm an Anishinaabe, member of Saging First Nation, and I'm also Guyanese on my father's side, and I grew up along the Red River in southern Manitoba, and now I'm living in Mississauga, Ontario.
Any words of advice to those in our community who may be interested in, this film industry?
Yeah, absolutely. What was pivotal for me was having mentors, so reaching out to people who you look up to for advice and words of encouragement. Imagine Native has been really pivotal for me. They had a Film Institute features lab that I was a part of, that I got to kind of hone in on my writing skills, and I think that kind of mentorship has really helped me on my journey, so I'm so thankful.
Is there anyone you want to give a quick shout out to, while you made the ones who helped you with these films?
Yeah, well, there's a few people. I think Eva Thomas is one person who really took me under her wing and, provided me with a lot of support and mentorship. And Gail Maurice, because she casted me in her beautiful story. She's a wonderful filmmaker, and I'm so grateful for that experience.
Thank you so much for your time, Dana, and best of luck at TIFF and beyond.
Miigwech, thank you for having me.
We now give you the results of last week's web poll questions. Our first question was, should artificial intelligence be used as part of Indigenous language revitalization? 27% said yes, 50% of you said no, and 23% were unsure. Question 2 was, do you think Northern First Nations should be more involved in Arctic security? 83% said yes, 9% said no, and 8% were unsure. And our last question was, have you ever experienced racial profiling while shopping at a store? 61% said yes, and 39% said no. Thanks for taking the time to cast your vote. To check out this week's new web poll questions, go to aptnnews.ca for a new set of questions. One last break here, we will tell you about an Indigenous art gallery that will be featured in a new APTN series when we return. Jeskwa Pitaman. Wow, welcome back. An award-winning Indigenous art gallery on the West Coast is now the focus of a new series on APTN. Coastal Carvings will give viewers an inside look at the gallery to see the day-to-day lives and moving personal stories of several exceptional Indigenous artists. Jeremy Humperville is a Métis artist and co-owner of the gallery in Combs, British Columbia.
Jeremy, thanks for being with us, and congrats on the show. Can you tell us a bit about the series and how it came to be?
Yeah, I mean, we had a fellow from Road River Films heard through a friend about the gallery and stopped by, and he was looking through the albums, and he's like, well, hold on, these pieces are so individual and they're so unique to each client. So he's like, you don't see a lot of this. And then it was pointed out to him that by some of our staff that we spent up to 4 years on some of these houses. And he said, well, this is a story that needs to be told. I'd love to see a deeper dive into the workings of how you meet these clients and how they allow you to work in their homes for, extended periods of time. So he's associated with Jim Shockey from the Hand to Man Museum, who has a lot of Indigenous artifacts. So Jim, who kind of backs them, says, I'd love to see that story told. So they approached us about doing, I guess, a little bit of a scripted show, and we just were like, we were so uncomfortable with that. We're not TV people, we're artists. So we said no, but then after lengthy discussion, they decided that they would do a docuseries where it's literally a fly-on-the-wall approach. There's a narrator because we're not necessarily talking about what we're doing all the time, and you get a deeper dive into the lives of our artists and actually more of a true look at their emotions, the people they are, their history, because of the fact that it's not scripted. So it's turned into something that after a little bit of test footage, we agreed we'd do because it was very tasteful. So we were excited to be part of it now, and it's and here it is now coming up to air. So we're excited about that.
Jeremy, for those unfamiliar with Coastal Carvings, can you tell us a bit about the gallery and the art that's on display?
For sure. My wife and I opened the gallery 21 years ago as my private studio, but then I had so many different trainers and people I'd worked with over the years. We ended up turning into a full-on gallery within a very short period of time. So now we're an Indigenous gallery, so we carry Inuit, First Nations, and Métis art. And it's a really good mix. So it's a very rich feeling when you come into the gallery because of the mixture of all the heritages. And then, at that point, okay, we have this nice mix of art, but then clients came and, a lot of them are moving to Vancouver Island because they have their forever home and they wanted something very personal. So we started offering the service of design to their requests. And that challenged us because it's, you know, when someone asks you to incorporate music with your indigenous forms, it can be very tricky. So it challenged us as an artist, and it made us better, but it also made us very unique in the art world that we're designing custom pieces. That's probably up to 90% of what we do. So the gallery's beautiful, has beautiful art, even artifacts back to the early 1800s, but it also facilitates making people's dream pieces. So.
Right. What role do you think art has in helping to keep culture and tradition alive?
Oh, you know what? So today, and I don't want to get into a big debate over it, but technology has moved us so fast. You know, I think especially since I was a child, not having even a cell phone in school, and now everything is computerized, everything is modern. We have the invention of AI, and AI now is everybody's an artist. They can speak to the screen, and it becomes a piece of art. So, really, it's important, no matter what culture you're from. You know, especially Indigenous, because we're a smaller group across Canada, but any culture that people have today, I think passing on that tradition, passing on knowledge that's not in books. That background is so important to preserve, and I think you'll find that in the Coastal Carving show is there's lots of mentorship, there's lots of people learning directly from the beaters, directly from the carvers, and that knowledge is being passed on the way it was to us as we learned. So that's what makes it relevant today, I think, is that, you know, going back to that era of the craftsman movement where you're making it by hand and you're not just relying on a machine to do it, and actually getting the brain power to work. So I think it's more relevant now than ever, even from when we started the show filming like almost 3 years ago till now, just the way society's gone. Everything is instant gratification now, and these things take time to develop and to be passed on. So.
3 years, that's a while to put together. The show's going to be on APTN Lumi. Jeremy, what are you hoping viewers take away?
You know, I would like them, even for myself, so you know, I'll say partly what I took away is we started filming this, and I ended up with a huge knowledge of my artists, like, that I didn't have before, because they start just talking about their past or their parents and the struggles and the struggle to preserve their heritage. And, you know, I learned so much. So I think you're going to get not just a story about grand art and the time it takes, which is really important that people know that how much time is invested in these pieces, but you get that deeper dive into the personalities and also the struggle to keep their lines of heritage alive. I mean, I see that through Levi, especially one of my younger artists. His grandmother comes in. I've known her my whole life, but I didn't know the whole story until I actually watched, you know, part of the series, and I'm like, oh man, you know, the depth that went into is very personal. So I think that there's stories that people will be interested in when it comes to the people, not just the art that we're doing.
Well, good stuff, Jeremy. Congrats again on the show, and appreciate you spending some time with us to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thanks to our Dennis Ward for that interview with Jeremy. And that's your daytime newscast for Tuesday, August 26th. To our weather enthusiasts, we apologize. Hopefully we get that weather segment up soon. Join us again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's been a pleasure. From all of us at APTN, Egase Gitam Giganiskat Nanao.